WWE superstar, former Raw and Smackdown Women's Champion Bayley has been missing from the WWE for a number of months now since July due to a major knee injury that she sustained in training. At the time, the WWE announced that we weren't likely to see Bayley again until after WrestleMania. However, there is plenty of evidence emerging that these expected times are a little bit pessimistic. Over the last couple of months, through various social media, WWE programming and Instagram, we've started to see quite a lot of Bayley, and when it comes to a knee injury, she's looking pretty good. There are images of her without any knee protection, and there are plentiful images of her working out as fiercely and as strongly as Becky Lynch did shortly before her return. Back in July, when Bayley's injury was first announced, the WWE stated that she would be out of action for 9 months. As I said at the time, the intention here wasn't actually to give a time frame, but to place it just after a dedicated event, leaving a very clear indicator that she would not be appearing at next year's WrestleMania. Wrestling storylines are built with WrestleMania in mind, at least in the WWE, where essentially everything is built towards the WWE WrestleMania premiere event. All storylines culminate there. So being able to say Bayley will not be involved until after WrestleMania basically is the WWE's way of saying the creative team will not be writing anything for Bayley until after WrestleMania, so don't worry about it, we'll see her when we see her. The 9-month number perfectly took us all the way to the show of shows, meaning that we had no chance of seeing her in action before then. Now, the WWE in the past has had people who are fully cleared, ready to go, but not featured them. I was able to report early last year hard to tell nowadays, early last year that Nia Jax had been cleared in time for the Royal Rumble, but she wasn't used, with the idea being that she would return in the WrestleMania Battle Royal. However, that was then scrapped due to COVID, so she returned the night after. I was able to report that, and Nia Jax would later confirm it on a page stream. This is not unusual, and it is very similar to what's happening with Sasha Banks right now, who is cleared, who is absolutely A-OK and ready to wrestle, but is for some reason not being featured, largely storyline, according to, well, myself and also Raj Giri of Wrestling Inc. I spoke candidly last week about plans for Bayley, and I gave a few little hints. Well, let's address this now with just a little speculation and conversation. I do need to let this down a little. It's choking me ever so, struggling to say. A little hint and rhetoric, if you will. Hell, maybe Tom Colohue could add a little friendly clickbait to the proceedings. You know, we've been shown quite clearly that Bayley is definitively ahead of that 9-month schedule. The ACL tear, or the Anterior Cruciate Ligament tear, is a footballer's injury, something very popular amongst footballers over here in the UK. I say popular, they hate it, but it happens a lot because they never stop running. So it's something I've seen a lot of, and footballers often take 9 months before even returning to training, and then maybe 1-2 months later, they start to get back into match action. Bayley is already there 3 months on. She's already training, she's already lifting, she's already exercising. She's already putting a lot of strain onto that knee. Now, she's not ready by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot more to it than just being able to lift while having a bum knee, as it were. But that doesn't alter the fact that she's unquestionably made remarkable progress. Of the top draw women's matches, Bayley versus Becky is probably the only one that the WWE could do right now that hasn't already been done. With the exception of Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey, of course, but that doesn't look likely to ever happen now. We were told repeatedly Ronda Rousey had a 3-year contract, she only wrestled for one of them, and then vanished, and now is unavailable due to pregnancy. So I'm increasingly believing that match might never happen. That said, I'm confident that with the love that Bayley picked up during her heel run, and the fact that absence makes the heart grow fonder, she will get an incredible pop upon her return. If she walks into a WWE Raw or Smackdown that is ruled by any of the other 4 horsewomen, say Charlotte Flair, who's a champion now, or Becky Lynch, who's a champion now, That's a big draw WrestleMania match right now. That's a big draw WrestleMania match right there, and she doesn't necessarily have to win a Rumble to do so. But imagine for a moment she does. Because there's a very safe way to protect someone who can't perform at the highest match fitness yet. Between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania this year, after Bianca Belair won the Rumble, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair barely wrestled. They had some tag team matches, which in many ways involved very little wrestling for either of them, and they had a thing with Reginald. They weren't that heavily involved, and they weren't that heavily taxed. If you'll allow me to fantasy book for a moment, imagine a Royal Rumble win for Bayley, leaving her to take her time between the choice of Becky Lynch on Smackdown or Charlotte Flair on Raw. She wouldn't need to throw everything into that Royal Rumble win. She could be protected and still have time to recover further, ready for WrestleMania. And I've got to be honest, wouldn't that just be great fun for everyone involved?